Does photography gear matter? Well, yes it does. And no it doesn't. Now, that might seem a bit mad, but stick with me as I explain. And yes, I know there are loads of videos out there on YouTube about, oh my god, photography gear doesn't matter. But I'm going to tell you, most of those people have exactly the equipment they need. So yes, it does matter. But is your photography gear holding you back? That's the most important question. So let's get into it and find out what the story is. So, is your photography gear holding you back? I suppose the one way of knowing this is, to really think about it and say, is your equipment limiting your photography? So you gotta sit back, you gotta stop, you just gotta calmly compose yourself and say, right, if I buy that new lens or if I buy that new camera, what's it going to do for me? What's the problem with the existing equipment I have? And I'd just like to say to everyone, you can go out and you can buy the latest camera and you can buy, you can spend 20 grand on equipment. Is it going to make you a better photographer? No, it's not. What's going to make you a better photographer is thinking. And that's something the camera will not do for you. So the most important thing in photography is thinking, having a thought process behind your equipment. Yeah, sure, gear is amazing and it's fantastic and it really helps in specific situations. So people saying that gear doesn't help, that's rubbish. Or, gear doesn't matter, that is absolutely rubbish. Gear matters so bloomin' much, but does it matter to your photography? Is it actually holding you back? Yes, I can go out and I can use a 7 or 8 or a 10-year-old camera and I can still produce the images I want. But I have to find a way of working around it. And they might only be 90% of the way there. But I can still produce the image. So again, getting back to it, just because you have the equipment doesn't mean it's going to make you a better photographer. So it's about you. It's about what's in here going over and through into the camera. And you need to be able to perfect that. So you can buy all the equipment you want, and usually what happens with people, I'm going to be straight up and honest, I've seen it happen so many times with workshop clients. They're dreaming about this latest full frame camera and they're using an APS-C crop sensor camera and they want, oh my god, I need to buy this camera. They buy the camera and it has a twofold effect. Let's say if you're jumping up sensor size, the first thing is it's going to highlight any of the flaws in your photograph. So if you're shooting landscapes, let's say for argument's sake, you're going to have a slightly shallower depth of field at f8 than you would have had at f8 on a crop sensor camera. I'm not really going to get into it, that's for another video. So it's going to highlight the fact that if you're not focused on the right spot in your image, your depth of field mightn't be right. So your foreground might be slightly out of focus or your background might be slightly out of focus. Sure, that camera has a load of other bells and whistles on it that are really going to help going forward. As regards dynamic range, possibly. As regards pixel count, possibly. As regards high ISO performance. So, yeah, they're all important and they all help. But they should not stop you creating a photograph in the first place. So, that's my first thought on it. I'm going to break it down into a few different genres because I suppose, look, being honest with you, most people are interested in either shooting landscapes or people. So your standard kit lens, and this is something I get an awful lot with workshop clients, they'll come in and they'll say, oh God, Kieran, I only have a kit lens. And I'm kind of looking at them and going, but what's wrong with a kit lens? The kit lens is cheap because of the fact that it's produced in its hundreds and thousands. So most kit lenses, let's say if you have your standard, Nikon 18 to 55mm kit lens, that kit lens is actually quite sharp when you start shooting up around f8. It shouldn't be holding you back. Now, people might say, oh yeah, but I want to shoot portraits, so I need to go out and I need to buy this lens. I suppose the first thing I'd say to people is, if you really want to shoot portraits and you're starting off in photography, you don't want to spend an absolute fortune, go out and buy a nifty 50. So in other words, go out and buy a 50mm f1.8 lens and you're going to love it. You know, you zoom with your feet, you move backwards and forwards to compose the image, but it makes you think. So that's the first thing. So again, gear does help there. Because if you're shooting a person, let's say I'm shooting this video here now, let's say at I think it's f1.8 to blur out the background slightly. Whereas if my lens was only capable of going down to f4 at this focal length, let's say, what's going to happen is the whole video is going to be in focus. So the background is going to be slightly distracting. So that's where equipment helps. Now, how could you change that? I suppose you shoot from a different angle. You know, you have the camera closer, so it's more of a talking head video, which it kind of is anyway. And you know, that all is going to really help you. So anyway, I'm going to completely sidetracked here again. So let's get on to the next point. I just stopped just while I was recording this, and I was just thinking, I'm talking about photography gear here. So I'm going to be straight up and honest with you. So far, since the start of this year, I have either bought or I've been given a new camera, which is what I'm recording this on right now. DJI sent over the DJI RS2 gimbal, the DJI Osmo, the DJI Pocket 2, not an Osmo Pocket, I keep calling it the Osmo Pocket 2, do you know what I'm talking about? Bought a new tripod, I got some new filters, thank you very much Format High Tech, and I bought a NAS drive, obviously as I was saying in one of the last videos. I'm trying to think what else. God, I bought some new studio lighting, and it's only the 1st of May. So yes, gear does matter. I'm constantly changing my equipment. You want to keep at the forefront of technology. But the reason why I'm constantly changing my equipment is because I'm constantly trying to push myself forward. I look at my photography gear and I say, right, that's amazing. I love this camera, but what else can it do for me? And I might say to myself, oh, you know, like I have the Ronin S there too as well. And even though I have the RS2 now, and the Ronin S was a nice gimbal, but the RS2 is a lot better. Again, there's a separate video coming forward, but it has far more facilities with Raven Eye and everything else, and it's lighter, the centre of gravity is slightly closer to your body, do you know, it has all the NATO attachments on it, or NATO ports on it, so it's just an incredibly handy bit of gear, and it's something that I use a lot now. So I just love it, you know, it does a lot more for me. So every time I look at a bit of new gear, I justify it to myself and I say, right, why do I need this? What's it going to do for me? How is it going to improve my photography? I think about it for a while, and sure enough, if someone is sending it to me, I'll take it. So message to all the companies out there, if you want to send me gear, I've no problem accepting it. But before I buy something myself, I really stop and I think about it and I say, right, do you know, how is this investment going to work for me? How has the kit I've been using, how has that stopped me doing what I want to do? And if it hasn't, I simply don't buy it. It's as simple as that. Because it's not an investment. It's just you spending money. So when I say to people about gear not being important, that's the part where you have to look at your own work and say, right, how is my equipment? The camera I'm using today, how is that holding me back? How can my photography improve? You know, how can I move forward in my career with my work, or just, you know, with my hobby? You know, what's stopping me? Is there an issue? You know, you might say, oh my God, you know, my kit lens, it only goes down to, you know, my maximum aperture is f4. And you're saying, right, you know, I want to be able to shoot at f1.4. Then cool, go out and buy yourself a nifty 50. Move backwards and forwards a small bit. Or if you find you're shooting in a lot of low-lit situations, let's say you're into astrophotography, and you say to yourself, right, I want to be able to go tonight now, and I want to shoot at 14mm at f2 or f2.8. Firstly, you need a lens. Secondly, then, you're probably going to be shooting at very high ISOs, so you're going to need a camera that handles your, I suppose, high ISOs with limited noise. So you have a few different restrictions there. So you need to find out what's holding your photography back. And it's quite often people say to me, oh, the camera doesn't focus right, or the camera, oh, I'm trying to take photographs of sunsets and it's not coming out right. And you generally find on nearly every single instance, it's not the equipment. So you need to know where to focus in an image. You need to know, I suppose, firstly, are you capturing your photographs in RAW? Or are you capturing them in JPEG? So if you're going taking photographs and if you're shooting in JPEG, you're kind of shooting yourself in the foot, especially if you're shooting images where there's a high dynamic range. So if you're, let's say, taking photographs of sunset and you have rocks or pier or a silhouette of a person in front of you, that's going to be really, really difficult to capture because you have some very bright scenes and some very dark scenes. So your camera is not like the human eye. Generally speaking, your camera, they normally say, will only say about 6 stops of dynamic range in a JPEG image, whereas you could be going 10, 12, 13, 14, 15 stops of dynamic range on a very good camera with a really modern sensor. So if that's something that's holding you back, Jesus, go out and buy it now. Don't mess about. Go get it. You're gonna benefit from it. But just have a clear idea why it's holding you back. And if it's not holding you back, don't buy it. Because the other thing you have to remember is, it's great having a new camera. And generally the newer cameras, there are higher resolution files and whatnot, so then you run into more storage problems. Then, you need a higher capacity SD card. Your battery mightn't last as long. So all of a sudden you buy one new bit of gear and you think, oh God, I'm not getting the most out of the camera because my lens is holding me back fractionally now. And then, instead of spending 200 or 300 euros on a few bits of gear, like go away and buying a good tripod, go away and buying a good camera bag, someone goes away and they drop 3.5 grand on a new camera. Absolutely brilliant, fantastic. But also think about all those other accessories: external hard drives, storage, SD cards, lenses. There's a massive amount that goes with it. So just really do remember that. Don't buy gear for the sake of it. Buy gear as an investment. So I suppose that's my whole point on why I believe photography gear doesn't hold people back, but also it can hold people back. So if you're using equipment that is stifling your photography, it's really limiting your work because it won't handle high ISOs properly, then that's something you need to look into. And as I think of it, here comes a serious plug here now. If you're talking about handling high ISOs and you're talking about noise in your image, I must say, in all fairness to Topaz Labs, they sent me out Gigapixel AI. Mind blown by that. Gigapixel, Sharpen AI, and the Noise AI during the week. Now, I only got to try it a few times, and thank you very much, Hillary, too, as well, by the way. But I only got to try it a few times, but I am absolutely blown away by Gigapixel AI. That's the one I've used quite a few times now, just checking it out. I had, let's say, for argument's sake, what I did one day is I downloaded an image, one of my own photographs, from my website, out of curiosity, in low resolution file. I popped into Gigapixel AI, and I enhanced it, and it frightened the life out of me because I had a photograph. I think it was about 1600 pixels long, and in the end, I could bring that up to over 6400 pixels on the longest edge, and the picture quality was a lot better. It was a lot sharper. It defined all the details, and it really kind of blew me away. It kind of scared me to a certain extent, but it also kind of blew me away too as well. So, that's one thing. So if you're taking photographs and you're saying, oh my God, the resolution, my camera isn't great. It's 12 megapixel, or it's 9 megapixel, or it's 20 megapixel. I want to be shooting at 36. Firstly, do you need it? Secondly, if you do, you can just go away and get something like Gigapixel AI, and you can actually enlarge the photograph afterwards. Is it going to be as good? Maybe not. I'm still in the process of trying it. But and getting back to higher ISOs, your next thing then again is denoise AI, and I've tried it with a few shots. I was out taking photographs with an ND filter there one day. I was testing out with ND filters, and it was straight away the image I thought of. And I was taking photographs and I was shooting with a 6-stop ND filter. Now my phone rang. I had another filter holder, I popped in the new 10 stop, and I forgot to change my settings. So it was just a random photograph. I was just testing for color neutrality and things like that. So obviously the photograph was completely underexposed. I brought it into Lightroom, popped the exposure way up, and I could see right the sharpness and clarity and everything else was still there. Color neutrality was still there, but the amount of noise I was getting was after increasing dramatically. So that was the first photograph I thought of trying denoise in. And I was actually quite surprised. It did a really good job in removing the noise from the photograph. Again, it's something I'm only playing around with. Then popped it back into sharpening item afterwards, and it sharpened the photograph too as well. And it came out really well. And I genuinely was shocked by it. So it's the next thing. There are workarounds. So you don't necessarily have to go out and have the latest gear. Yes, it does help, but look for things like that. And as I say, Topaz Labs have a sale on at the moment, that they have the Sharpen AI, Denoise and Gigapixel for half price. I think it's about €149 for the three of them. And if you use, they sent me a discount code too as well. It's Gigapixel 15, I think, is the. So if you use that, you also get a discount on the Gigapixel 2 as well, which is also at a reduced price at the moment. I'm going to put the details down in the description because, again, as I say, it was only something that popped up during the week. I wasn't even going to mention it in this here now, but they were nice enough to send it to me, so I'm going to promote it for them. And I'm really impressed with it. Honestly, no. Gigapixel scared the bejesus out of me. You know, I was quite like, wow, that has made a huge difference to this photograph. And it's something I'm going to pop up a photograph. I might do it during the week there now, just showing how it works, how easy it is to use it, even though, I should say to you, I'll also put a link in down below for the free trial, so you can go in and download a free trial and see it for yourself, rather than me talking about it. But I'm also going to pop up a video too as well, just to show you exactly what I'm talking about. So yeah, look for shortcuts, look for cheats, look for ways around it. Don't automatically think, oh my god, my gear is killing my creativity. No, it's not. I know some absolutely amazing photographers from all around the world who are producing breathtaking images on basic equipment. So you don't have to have the latest gear. The only limitation is you. I'm sorry to have to say that, you know, unless your gear is physically limiting you, like I mentioned before. And as I said, if it is, go out and buy new equipment. You know, go out and change it, but don't jump at it. Really try and justify it. So that's that. The other things I was going to say, there's a few genres where this doesn't really apply, where I'd say to you, look, you know, photography equipment does matter. It's as simple as that. Let's say if you're going to go out and you're going to start shooting long exposure photography, if you're going to go into astrophotography, you know, it's going to really help, even despite denoise and things like that. If you're going to go out and if you're going to start shooting wildlife photography or nature photography, then you're going to need a longer focal length lens. You want to drop out that depth of field, so you'll be shooting at maybe f2.8 at a 300mm lens or something crazy along those lines, you know. So you can have a shallow depth of field, and the other thing is, there's another video coming to as well soon, as I'm thinking, all these videos are popping into my head as I'm talking. There's another video coming to as well soon about depth of field, because I was only explaining this to someone there the other day, that a lot of people don't understand and don't realise you can change your depth of field in a photograph in two different ways. And most people go, what? In two different ways? Yes, you can change your depth of field in two different ways. We all know if you change your aperture or if you change your f-stop, that is going to change the amount of your image that's in focus. So that's going to change your depth of field, right? But there is another way too as well of changing your depth of field in your photograph, and it's something I'm going to discuss. And yes, we can all do it. It's really simple. So again, that's a video for another day. That was a small little teaser I didn't even mean to put in there now, but these things just pop into my head and I want to share them. I have my old Nikon D90. I'm going to take it out one of these days and I'm going to take photographs with it. And we're going to pop them up on the computer and see how I got on. So just to prove, and I'm going to shoot that with a kit lens. I'm going to shoot a quick vlog of me using that camera, and we're going to come back here then, and we're going to pop up the photographs, and what I might even do is pop up the raw files on my website and pop up the finished edited files, and you can all have a look yourselves. But just remember, it's about you. You are what's important. You are the person that's pressing the button. You are the person with creative control. You are what's making the photograph, not your camera. The camera captures what you're showing it. That's all the camera does. You are the one that's creating the image. I said before, you're using your desired focal length, your desired depth of field, the desired shutter speed, and you're the one pressing the shutter button at the right time. So you are what's important. Always remember that, and always give it a bit of heart. Put a bit of you into your photographs. Take your time, slow the hell down. I say it to everyone, stop rushing. Have respect for every single photograph, and it's going to reap absolutely massive rewards. So just take your time, take it easy, enjoy it, you know, and that's basically it. Just enjoy it. Don't focus on gear. Don't focus on what you think is holding you back. Sit down, look at it, and just try and decide, is it holding you back? And if it is, buy new gear. So that's it for today, guys. I had planned on this being like a 7 or 8 minute video. I haven't edited or anything as of yet. I have no idea how long this is, but I'm guessing this is just like 30-40 minutes of footage. So I'm going to have to kind of cut into this a few times to get rid of rubbish. So look, thanks very much. If you like the video, please like it. Please let me know your thoughts. So is this an absolute waste of time? Are you bored? Is it too long altogether? Am I going into too much detail? And lastly, please do subscribe. And that's it, guys. See you out there. And new video coming on Wednesday. Thanks a minute.